Welcome to the NBA Prospect Show, powered by Easy Analytics. I'm Tom Metler. He's Adam Scherher, and we were just kicking around backstage. We were talking about Tom Thibodeau and his rotations. I was like, we may as well go live here because I think we're going to talk about the exact same thing on the show here. Adam, I know you were tweeting about it. I was tweeting about it. I think it kind of goes both conference finals to talk more about the Knicks because that's the game tonight. But I don't remember a conference finals, both series, where you're unsure of the minutes for even the superstar players. Like Julius Randle bench, Karl-Anthony Towns gets benched. Like you're seeing all these different rotations. You're like, even last night I was like, oh, Mike Conley, I thought he was playing pretty good. Didn't play the whole fourth quarter. Like I don't usually at this point in the season, it's like, we know who's healthy. We know who's playing. There's no load management. You know who the starters are. And then Tom Thibodeau, last game, runs out with a lineup of Landry Shamet, DeLon Wright, Josh Hart, Deuce McBride, Mitchell Robinson. You're like, what am I watching? What did you think of all this?
Yeah, that was the lineup that really confused me when all three of them were out there because, his hand was kind of forced early on. Like, I saw Knicks fans on Twitter kind of being like, what is he doing? Yes, Shamet and Wright in. And it's like, well, Brunson has, 4 fouls. McBride picked up 3 fouls in 2 seconds. So his hand's kind of forced unless he really wants to play the foul trouble game, which is a whole separate conversation. But then once you had McBride back in and you were still going Wright and Shamet, that's when I was kind of like, okay, what is he doing? But I mean, the crazy part was that it worked really well. So now I think the interesting thing is, obviously I assumed that was just a 1-game emergency experiment where they're in foul trouble, they're down 20 plus points, you go to DeLon Wright and Shamet, but then they come back and they win. Are those guys in the rotation now? I thought that they would cut Campaign out last game and that those minutes would go to McBride. And then I actually had thought that if there was an emergency, maybe you would get a couple DeLon Wright minutes instead of Campaign. So maybe you get that here where DeLon Wright plays a couple minutes, but is Shamet in the rotation? Is Thibodeau gonna run a deeper rotation in game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals than he did at any point during the regular season?
Yeah, and I think it's almost frightening for Knicks fans that it worked because now you're like, is he going to do this again? Because I think he just kind of got away with it to a degree that it worked. And then we're talking about backstage too. It does I can kind of see DeLon Wright or one of the two maybe being in and bringing up the ball because they do put a lot of pressure. Jalen Brunson keeps bringing up the ball. He keeps turning it over. You have Aaron Nesmith. You have Andrew Nembhard. So there's a third ball handler who can bring it up and kind of go more against Tyrese Halliburton where there's going to be more pressure. Less pressure you get into your offense. Maybe that makes more sense and you can see that happening. But I felt like it worked because I think the Pacers coaching staff were like, we didn't scout or game plan for we don't even really know what to run or who to attack because we just didn't expect to see these lineups at all. It was really strange. I mean, he got away with it. They won the game. Cat went nuclear in the the second half there, but wow.
That was one of the more impressive things I've seen.
From Cat?
Yeah, just Cat going nuts.
Yeah, he had a good game. He just is head down. And the second he gets in that kind of headspace of I'm scoring well, it's just nobody's touching the ball. The second he gets it, it is going up. So yeah, it was interesting. We're gonna get into the picks here. Speaking of Cat, we'll go to the first pick here. We are going to bet MGM for the first bet, and we're going Karl-Anthony Towns over 1.5 assists, even money. So once again, that's Karl-Anthony Towns over 1.5 assists, even money. Adam, you want to break this one down?
Yeah, so for the series through the first 3 games, he's still only averaging 1 assist, but his potential assists have rebounded a bit from that Celtics series, and that's something that you and I talked about on a previous show when we took a Cat over. So he's back up to 3.7 potential assists per game through the first 3 in this series. Obviously still not converting at a high rate. And I do think that there's a chance that we have his actual assist number a little over projected, still factoring in a lot of his conversion rate during the regular season. And maybe that's just not going to hold up, period, in the playoffs. But there's also a big enough gap. We have a 2.8 assist projection on Cat. There's a big enough gap between that and what you actually need at this price, where even if you want to argue that our rate projection is too high, you can lower it and it's still going to look like a good bet, I think, just based on the fact that, we are seeing those potential assists increase. And also the 3.7 potential assists, that is per game. It's not 48-minute adjusted or anything like that. So it includes the game where Cat got benched for the fourth quarter and obviously didn't get any potential assists there. So you could argue too that like if he does avoid foul trouble and he does avoid getting benched in the fourth quarter, that, you know, maybe he does get more potential assists as well. It is on a 34-minute projection, which I think is the correct projection, you know, when you factor in all of the things that can get Cat taken off the floor. But there is the potential for him to just play more minutes than that too.
No stupid fouls. Please do not give us any stupid fouls. This guy.
I don't know what that means.
I think game after game 2. So like I know he missed on the assist prop, and then it had a good price, but you had the 28 minutes. He was benched, and you're like, okay, and I'm kind of unsure of what his role is. Like, are they just going to keep benching him? And then they're also talking about, well, they did do it. They started Mitchell Robinson not in place of Cat, but in place of Josh Hart. So it tells you they are kind of looking to make changes. I think coming off of the last game where he basically carried them to the win, you feel way more comfortable that his minutes are, like you're saying, a minute projection of 34. You feel like those minutes will be there, and he should probably get a longer leash. And if he stays out of foul trouble, he should play the minutes. Where after game 2, you're like, I'm not so sure. Like they're looking at changes here. Game 3, though, big game. 1.5 assists, even money. I know he had 4 potential assists last game. That's basically all you can ask for when a guy's trading at 1.5. That's a really strong number. It doesn't seem like a lot, but two, if you can convert 2 of the 4, we're laughing here. We got even money. So
yeah.
Was there anything else you wanted to add there?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, and to your point about Robinson starting, like that's something that obviously I would pay a lot more attention. Like if this were a rebounding prop, I'd be a lot more concerned that, you know, at looking into our rate and saying like, oh, you know, what are we doing with Robinson on the floor, blah, blah, blah. But like for assists, I'm not as concerned about it. The only, I guess, negative for Cat playing time is, you know, he got to 33 minutes last game by playing the entire fourth quarter where he was playing really well. Mitchell Robinson didn't step on the floor until the very, very end of the fourth. What happens in the game where Mitchell Robinson does play in the fourth quarter? Are they going Cat plus Mitchell Robinson, or are they closing with only one of them? That is, I think, the concern on Cat. But my assumption is still that more often than not, it's going to be Cat out there and not Mitchell Robinson.
That was this, like, so you talk about Tibbs rotation. So he makes a switch. He pulls Josh Hart, puts Mitchell Robinson in, and all of a sudden it's like fourth quarter, and the fourth quarter is just running away, and all of a sudden they're back to the original starting 5. You didn't have Mitchell Robinson in there. And you're like, if you wanted to switch because of matchups, why is Mitchell Robinson not back in the game? Why is Josh Hart still in the game running with this starting 5? It's sometimes I honestly think he just is like sitting there coaching. He doesn't even realize who's on the floor. And once it gets bad, then he's like, oh, I need a sub. Or if it's going good, he's like, they just stay out there.
I feel like it's a lot of NBA coaches, especially when they do have like interchangeable pieces, you know, where it's kind of just like, oh, well, you know, I could go Hart here, I could go Robinson here. Let's just see, you know, how
I think they would go to kind of talk about what you're saying, though. I think they would go double big, which I think would help Cat here in his minutes, because I think the thought is, you know, Siakam cooked him, but there was no rim protector behind him. So you either put Mitchell Robinson on Siakam to slow him down, or we put Cat on Siakam and let Mitchell Robinson be like a rim protector behind Cat if he gets beat. So I think that was kind of the thought behind all that, with, you know, Pascal Siakam really killing them in game 2. I think that was the reason for the switch. It's, we can't have Cat as our main rim protector, and he can't move his feet with Siakam. So like we need to kind of offset this somehow. And Siakam didn't have the best game 3. So I think that kind of helps Cat's minutes as well.
Yeah, and I think like if they're playing from behind, you're likely to see Hart over Robinson. But like if you're playing from behind, you're not going Robinson over Cat. So again, like Cat should be safe, I think.
Yeah. So the first bet, Karl-Anthony Towns over 1.5 assists, even money at BetMGM. Second bet here, we're going to DraftKings, and we're going to take one that will have people on the edge of their seats, because we're going Jalen Brunson under 29.5 points, minus 110. Once again, that's Jalen Brunson under 29.5 points, minus 110. Adam, you want to break this one down?
Yeah, I mean, this one's tough because, so one thing that could hurt this, and it's something to keep in mind if you are betting it, that we have news up in the air. Aaron Nesmith is questionable. If he's out, obviously that hurts in the end his defense, specifically on Brunson too. So, you know, that's something to keep in mind. But so far in this series, Brunson's averaging like 34 points per game, on the back of 43 points in game 1, 36 in game 2. We saw him score 23 last game. Obviously was limited by foul trouble. But true shooting in the series is like 62%, which is higher than you expect. For the postseason overall, he is averaging about 29.5 points rather per game. So this is one where, you know, based on what we've seen in the series so far, it doesn't look great, but just based on the way Brunson projects out, it does he is projected to still obviously do really well and score a lot of points, but to come back down to earth a bit in terms of shooting percentage and get back closer to this, 29.5 line.
Yeah, Aaron Nesmith is a big piece of that puzzle. I feel like Aaron Nesmith came back last game.
I think he's playing.
Yeah. I mean, unless the ankle like really swelled up over the last couple, the next day after the game, it's really sore. But I would think he's playing because he came back. If he never came back last game, I would be more concerned about that.
Yeah.
Jalen Brunson's kind of been under fire here too for like kind of being like a ball stopper and like not getting the other Knicks players involved. And like the second he gets it, he's dribbling. I forget who called him out. It was a former NBA player on a podcast, but I've seen it. You kind of that narrative picking up on Twitter too, where you're like, he's really dribbling the ball, like looking for this matchup, looking for that matchup for like 17, 18 seconds. And a lot of people think he's ruining the flow of the Knicks offense. And that's why I know he had 5 fouls and I know that's why he was on the bench, but it was interesting that Tom Thibodeau kept Deuce McBride in the game till like a minute 30 left. And it was almost at that point, like a minute 30 where like you would have to answer a lot of questions if Jalen Brunson didn't come back into the game. It's almost like you had to put him back in. So if you were nervous about someone's, we're looking at this tweet here, highest plus minus. Aaron Nesmith is one of those. Mike Conley, that pissed me off because I had a prop on him yesterday. And he sat the whole fourth quarter. But yeah, like you're looking at there, Deuce McBride plus 25, Aaron Nesmith plus 20. So like the defense, the problem the Knicks have run into this whole series is their 2 best offense players, Cat and Brunson, are getting absolutely attacked on defense, and they don't really know which way to go. So I think they solved the Cat problem with Mitchell Robinson instead of Josh Hart. The Jalen Brunson thing, though, if they're just matchup hunting him over and over again, I mean, he's not going to bench him, but could we get a couple less minutes from Jalen Brunson? Totally possible, right? So that would help us too.
And also to your point, the very first thing, if I remember correctly, that Brunson said in his post-game interview after last game was that he needs to do a better job getting his teammates involved, that he feels like he's playing poorly in that regard. Maybe you get that as an emphasis in this game, which would obviously more assists, less points.
Yeah, he only had 1 assist last game, which is like pretty crazy for a point guard who has the ball in his hands. I think he had obviously higher potential assists. They didn't convert there. Nick saying 30.5 minus 120 ESPN. That has to be maybe slightly better than I think than the DraftKings. It's going to be pretty close just because when it's this high, the points they're not as important. The juice is also very important here. So 20.5 minus 110, 30.5 minus 120. That's really close. You can definitely play like 30.5 minus 120 if you like. The 2 bets today, we're going Karl-Anthony Towns over 1.5 assists, even money at BetMGM, and Jalen Brunson under 29.5 points, minus 110 at DraftKings. Adam, quickly, Wolves, Thunder. Thunder just going to win this one?
I think so, yeah.
I think the Thunder are, 6 games away from winning the NBA Finals. That's my prediction. I think they close them out in 5, and I think the NBA Finals, whether it's Knicks or Pacers, I think it's going to be a sweep or 5 games. I think the Thunder are going to absolutely kill both these teams. So that's my thought there. But this concludes the NBA Prop Pick Show powered by EV Analytics. We will be back tomorrow. Game 5, Thunder Wolves. Might be the last game of the Western Conference Finals. Good luck with your bets. Del, play the song.